Officials say Ohio beekeepers lost 50 to 80% of their honeybees over the harsh winter. Local 12 meteorologist Josh Knight is live at Gorman Heritage Farm in Evendale with how this trend could actually threaten the farming industry. Hi, Josh.
Hey, Cammie, that's right. And we are at an educational farm here. So here's a little lesson. Right now, thousands of bees are inside these white boxes and flying around. And just like the honeycomb I have here in my hand, they're inside filling these little combs with pollen as well as nectar. And eventually that will turn into honey. But if we rewind about 3 weeks ago, there wouldn't be any bees here. In fact, all of the hives around me, all the bees died over the winter. Now, some of the cold temperatures are being blamed, but that's not the only factor coming into play.
Flowers are in bloom and the sounds of spring are literally buzzing around. But across the state, these hard workers have taken a major hit over the winter. Dr. Kritzky studies insects and has some hives of his own.
Normally in the winter, the bees will gather around the queen and they shiver. And that shivering raises the temperature around the queen to 94 degrees Fahrenheit.
During the winter like we had, sometimes that can be a challenge.
The bees just can't maintain that temperature adequately, and they might stop in the hive. They can actually eat all the food where they're at and starve to death.
But he says the cold really can't be to blame completely. Honeybees were actually brought to North America with pilgrims.
It evolved primarily in the Alps and parts of northern Italy, and so it's adapted to and evolved to build up honey stores to overwinter.
Kritzky explained that the honeybee is already under a lot of stress from different mites, viruses, bacteria, beetles, and man-made problems.
There's increased use of pesticides, especially the neonicotines, and these are pesticides which seem in some cases to interfere with the ability of insects to sort of find their way back to a home.
The harsh winter was piled on top. Kritzky says bees are responsible for pollinating 3/4 of the food that we eat, even almonds.
Every almond you eat required the visit of a bee. If we didn't have bees, you would not have any almond joys. You just have mounds.
Closer to home, he says the impact is primarily on the small beekeeper. They will have to work harder and maybe shell out some cash to buy new bees.
It's really disconcerting to lose your bees. It depends how you look at them. If you think of them as your pets, it's like losing your cat.
And of course, that is what happened here. All of these hives, all the bees did die over the course of the winter. So that's exactly what happened. They shell out some extra cash. You actually get bees along with a queen shipped in, and then you can start over. The good news, with some extra hard work by the beekeepers, these colonies should be able to bounce back during the warm spring. And other good news, if you do have bees nearby, it can actually really help your vegetable garden. Kritzky told me today that those bees will fly 3 to 5 miles to pollinate some of those flowers.
Wow, learned a lot in that story. Josh Knight, thank you. Now coming